6 more days passed. Thanks to the disclosure of records by the Bamul Alliance, the world now knows all the inside stories of the Temple of Evil. The deaths of Deepuz Runkendal and Lynn Milano are being finalized. Tower of Luther Magical Federation stories. Octavia said, looking at the newsletter on her desk. In the newsletter, the published records of the mysterious temple were converted into articles and described. Deepuz Runkendal places his hopes on Mary Runkendal and Jean Runkendal and shares the power of the evil spirit. On May 22, 1803, Deepuz Runkendal passed away with a piece of the evil spirit's power. The chest becomes weak. Runkendal's writers, led by Dino Jaglan, did not attempt to restore Deepuz's reputation through this record. He simply transcribed the record into an article in a calm style. Because Mary didn't want it. Dyfus' death was something that deserved a personal memorial as his closest brother. No matter how he placed his hopes on Jean, there was a reason why he had to do so. The fact that countless people died at his corrupt hands has not gone away. Nevertheless, people understood Deepuz through the passage, pinning hope on Jean Runkendal. Of course, this is not the case for everyone, but at least Deepuz is not being treated as a traitor who will never be seen again. The same could be said about Lynn Milano's betrayal. In the first place, Lynn's betrayal was not known to the public or even to temporary allies, but the fact that she had posed as a villain for the sake of the evil god war was newly revealed. Our reporters are continuing to try to find fault with Lon Vigo and Mu, but it won't be easy to change the atmosphere. In addition, the betrayal of the revived previous generation heads and the performance of the previous generation heads, who did not become corrupted in the end, were also receiving a great response from the public. Most of the records released in that way had a beneficial effect on Runkendal. Furthermore, Lynn Milano's betrayal was not even reported to us at the time. Still, the battle of evil spirits ended in victory. When Ronald answered, Cadden gritted his teeth. It's an obvious deception. 12 horsemen, that damn bastard played with us. It's shocking that they are disclosing information without even discussing it with us. Are you stabbing me in the back like this? Even if you chew it, it won't hurt. Baradin, who was quietly listening to Cadden's words, quietly shook his head. Getting angry won't solve anything, Khadun. Calm your excitement. Every time you do this, I feel embarrassed. As soon as Baradin finished speaking, the atmosphere in the conference room became cold. No one has scolded Cadden like this since he became Kiliak's guardian dragon. Whenever Cadden got angry or talked nonsense, even Kiliak did nothing but calm him down. What? It means that if you want to express your anger in a way that makes your listeners uncomfortable, you need that kind of ability. Mr. Cadden, do you have the ability to put pressure on the Runkendal and Bamul Alliance right now? Can you crush them with your own force? Cadden glared at Baradin. After finding the opposite sex, Baradin was moving away from the person Zippel knew and the person they wanted through mental manipulation. Even your father Sojayaju didn't treat me carelessly. So what are you going to do? Is there any reason why I should follow my father's example in my attitude toward Cadden? I don't think there's anything wrong with what I said. Baradin. From now on, please refrain from unnecessary venting of emotions and ruining the atmosphere. It just looks ridiculous to both allies and enemies. This means that you should have a sense of weight as the guardian dragon of your family. I think I said something similar once before. Just as Cadden was about to shout something, Octavia and Ronald stopped him. If you don't like my methods, let me restore your father right away. Then I will respect you more, Cadden. Bang! Eventually, Cadden broke the table and left the conference room. Brother Ronald. After the meeting is over, make sure to warn Cadden. Also, if you leave in the middle of a meeting like this, you will never have to sit here again. All right. Have you received any response from the Bamul coalition regarding the use of purifiers? I also need Kiliak's power during the final battle. Of course, it may be unpleasant, but if the purifier is improved before the battle and then the power of Kiliak Zippel is absolutely necessary, I'll use the purifier on him. What Jean said during the temporary alliance meeting. As soon as the war ended, Jeepel had requested the use of a purifier from Runkendal. Not yet. There is no response at all. It looks like you have no intention of responding. Should I ask for something stronger? No, it doesn't work. Since my father's encroaching state doesn't seem to be at a level that can be treated with their purifier, it would be better to find another way. Tell Khadun to take care of that as well. Baradin. No, Sagaju. I don't think it's a good idea to treat Mr. Khadun too poorly. The Runkandal and Bamul alliance are firmly united as soon as the war ends, so there's no reason to create rifts among ourselves, right? Lord Captain, we need Khadun's ability to unite our federation. Not only that, but it also applies to all the leaders of the family, including me. There is a clear focal point over there, Jean Runkandal. I believe that it is not your intention to show Sagaju's majesty to those below you by breaking Khadun's momentum. I guess we should consider that too. If Khadun becomes polite, my leadership skills will be proven again to my family and the forces under my command. Sagaju. I'll stop talking about this. The Wraith Captain should consult with the agents to find a way to lighten the atmosphere of Runkandal. Lon and Vigo Mu, and rather than using them when they're dead, it would be better to make the case that Jin Runkandal is starting a new war as soon as the War of the Beast ends. It's actually stimulating us and Kinjalo a lot. I understand. We have received a report that a shipbuilding yard is being built near the second city of Hylon the Empire. Octavia, please pay close attention to this area and check for trends. You're probably going to be short on steel, so you'll have to keep tightening it so the problem doesn't go away. We are stopping the export of steel from the Lutheran Federation and inspecting all means of transportation in the neutral country of Huffister, a neighboring princely state. Like Sagaju said, he seemed to be having a hard time. I can't feel reassured by that. There's a good chance you have it in your back pocket somewhere. The Minche Blacksmith Society? Or maybe Kinjalo. We are continuing to look into the former. Transport ships from the Huffister or Bamul Alliance empires have not yet been spotted coming and going. Moreover, the 12 horsemen touched their pride. We won't be able to help you easily, because you are lending weapons made by the association without permission. What about Kinjalo? This morning Casimir Alprian from the Bamul Alliance visited the new headquarters. Transportation through the leader's portal will be difficult to detect. I'll meet you and make sure their deal is done. Whether it was successful or not, please offer better conditions than the Bamul coalition and turn the deal in our favor. The meeting ended after a few more items were discussed. Baradin sat quietly for a moment in the conference room where everyone had left. It was definitely necessary to put pressure on Khadun, but I felt it was excessive. In fact, Baradin felt that he could not properly control his emotions at some point. What I had just done to provoke Khadun was a pre-planned action, but I felt like my words went a bit further than expected. Is it because of my father, or is it because of the power I gained through magical traces? It's not easy to control. Soon Baradin slowly moved to the top floor of the tower. Father. Baradin placing his hand on Kiliak's retainer. Inside the maintenance device, Kiliak's entire body turned black. The body's transformation had already progressed, making regeneration impossible with the current purifier. We'll be able to get you out of there soon. At that time, maybe. Baradin brought his face closer to the retainer and whispered back. I'll just leave. Rest in peace. Let Baradin go outside. Kiliak quietly opened his eyes. He stared for a long time at the door through which Baradin had gone, through his eyes as lifeless as black stones. The fingers moved once in a while. Over the past 6 days, Jean has met with the heads of families and immigrants from allied families of kings and lords in each region of Huffister and encouraged them. Construction of the shipbuilding yard in Jiamwangi was progressing smoothly. The association's blacksmiths realized that steel was needed to build a drying yard and had already begun sending Balaam. Even Baradin never thought about shipping through Balaam. Even at the time when Jeep was holding a meeting, Balaam was carrying steel, as if he were taking a walk without stopping. Casimir's visit to Kinjalo's new headquarters was a trick, along with the fact that a shipbuilding yard was being built near Hiron's second castle. Casimir deliberately offered Kinjalo a steel deal and was turned down. It was only natural that he said he wanted to purchase steel at a price higher than the market price. The construction site near Halen's second castle will be put into actual use once it is completed, but the core of the Alliance's ship construction was the secret construction facility in Jiamwangi. After receiving all the information related to him, Jean had returned to the Cauldron Snowfields with Valeria Vale. "You're here, youngest." Lord Bale and Miss Valeria see each other again. "Miss Valeria, I was sorry back then. As you know, I was not normal." "It's okay." Short greetings were exchanged and Valeria looked at the record of what the mysterious woman said. Fortunately, the record was confirmed immediately without any hiccups. Runtia Runkendal refuses to sign a contract with Lokia Ganesto. "Anyway, if Soren Runkendal comes back like this, your brother won't be able to handle him. Never without my help." The group couldn't take their eyes off that part for a long time. The guy who came here was Lokia Ganesto? Then was he really a traitor? Vale only focused on the fact that the identity of the person who visited Runtia was Lokia, but what was more important was the story behind it. A situation arises where the youngest child has to deal with his father? What does this mean? As Runtia spoke, Jean suddenly remembered the nights that the evil spirit had planted right after returning from La Perosa. It is revealed that Runkendal, the head of the Runkendal family, Rosa Runkendal Soren Runkendal, was killed in the Black Sea. The being who killed the demigod was the king of the Black Sea, and it is implied that there are several more beings like Gleek of the Sword Emperor Temple left. As the new owner of the Black Panther Runkendal, he announces that he will continue the legacy of the previous family head and subdue the kings of the Black Sea. However, he strongly emphasizes that unifying the entire world is the priority. King of the Black Sea. Jean assumed that the reason Soren's expedition went to the Black Sea was related to the kings of the Black Sea. It's probably a story about the king of the Black Sea. It seems that Lokia Ganesto is assuming that his father was corrupted by Changseong's demonic fire while fighting them in the Black Sea. The chaos of the king of the Black Sea and the demonic power unique to Changseong. Jean had already experienced the corruption of both of those things. What? Is this all Valeria records? Is there a record of where Lokia came from and where she went after leaving subspace? Those records are not being collected. Seeing as the records are unstable, the problem seems to be due to the manipulation of history applied to Lokia Ganesto. As time passed, the sentences that appeared in the record window became blurry. What other possibilities? The reason the records are unstable is not because of historical manipulation, but because of Lokia's intentional manipulation. As soon as I confirmed what Lokia had left, my anxiety rapidly soared, but when I thought about it calmly, I realized it was strange. There was not a single record of the movement left, but only the ominous details about the theory were revealed. It is a power that surpasses recording magic. Lokia Ganesto is a person who is secretly working behind the scenes without even the evil god knowing, so he may have such power. There are circumstances in which Lokia used Jeep's manipulation of history to hide herself in the first place. My recording magic is not perfect at the moment. Assuming that Lokia hid records of his movements, this is quite an intentional message. Explain so that the youngest child can understand. It means a trap, sister. I think the reason Lokia only revealed information about her father through the recording spell was because she wanted us to leave for the Black Sea. To find your father. Yes, and as Valeria said, Lokia was a person who acted without even knowing that she was a sharp evil spirit when she was human. But isn't it strange that he left clues about himself so poorly? There's no way I wouldn't know that one of my colleagues is a recording wizard. Rather, he probably did this because he was well aware of the existence of the record wizard. Then why on earth? The purpose of Lokia Ganesto is to resurrect the sun god. I think it's probably because they judged that me and the existence of the family Bamul alliance would be an obstacle to that. If the Bamul coalition begins a full-fledged search of the Black Sea because of this message, there will be a huge vacuum in our power. I don't think Lokia will think of you as a fool to invest all its power into the Black Sea with just this message. Yes, it will. However, if we only invest a few days, I and a few other key players will be able to visit the early to mid-Black Sea region. There is also Sir Hito, who is from the Black Sea. If I were Lokia, I would have aimed for that. Dig a trap there and wait. Of course, this is all just an assumption. However, Jean was overcome by an intuition that seemed to have seen through Lokia's true intentions. Besides, it looks like Lokia's situation isn't that good, seeing as she's pulling pranks like this. That may be because the battle of the demon gods did not end as he wanted. Well, I'm still very distraught. Even though it hasn't been long since you finished the evil spirit, if you think that something like that could happen again. Sister, that won't happen. Not long ago I met my father. Father? It was a time when there was a skirmish between the evil spirits and the inner world. The father I met then was on the path to becoming a human being, not a monster. I couldn't even imagine my father turning into a monster like that. Also, Ron, at the time of the Glee extermination, eventually overcame the demonic fire and protected the world. Although there was Jin's help, Soren now had Luna and the expedition team by his side. Just as Soren did not worry about Jin after meeting in the inner world. Jin also believed in his father. So don't worry too much. Even before Losha, a prophet, had already uttered this ominous prophecy. You will know the result well. Depending on how you perceive it, these messages have no power. What is important is not prophecy or foresight, but the strength and will to overcome it without collapsing when a great fate approaches. Jin realized that truth more keenly than anyone else as he went through a period of misfortune. Anyway, as Lord Paidler said, Lokia's existence has become clear, so we should pay more attention to finding him in the future. Listening to Jin's words, Runtia felt her anxious mind calming down quickly for some reason. Even if everything is an assumption, you can trust it because it is true. I'm glad I have you, youngest. Now hurry up and go back. As I said last time, next time come only when you are sure you can get me out. Your time is that precious. I understand, sister. Next time I see you, you will have become much stronger. There is no place in the world more suitable for closed-guan training than here. In fact, we have already overcome one wall since the last time you visited. I'm looking forward to it, sister. But you won't challenge me to a duel every 3 months like Sister Mary did back in the day, right? You may not know, but it's always fun to deal with a knight stronger than me. When the training is over, there won't be many people like you left, including you. Oh, you have a lot of confidence. If I hadn't lost interest in the sword and life in the past, you would be competing with me now. Haha, when you get back, say hello to Mary and Tana. I understand, sister. There was no longer any sadness or bitterness in this separation. Just as there was no need to worry about Shiren, there was no reason why we couldn't meet again. Greetings were exchanged and the door to exit subspace was opened. Runtia smiled brightly and waved to her younger brother and his group as they left. Jin, your sister's mental strength is amazing. It won't be easy to overcome the loneliness in that terrible space. I was embarrassed before because my body was that strong. Thank you, by the way, Valeria. I might not feel good about you, because it wasn't his will to stab me. I'm done with the unfamiliar sounds, let's go. The next place they had to head to was Kingelo's new headquarters. I wanted to stop by for a moment before going to see Leet. Originally he had intended to visit only to confuse his enemies about the steel trade, which Casimir had already deliberately failed to do. But it seemed like a good idea to ask about Lokia outright on the way. I think this is where the ship was parked. Jin looked ahead and said. All I could see was a completely white snowy landscape, but in fact there was a red owl hidden somewhere there. The arrival and return coordinates were set to Guigixisiong Fortress and Taiken. When the launch pad opens, just press the button in the center of the cabin. In the blink of an eye you will be in front of Guigixisiong Fortress. And transparency is still under development, so when you arrive pay attention to external exposure first. Invisibility? I don't know when it will be developed. Anyway, keep in mind that if the red owl is damaged, me and Valeria will do whatever it takes to kill you. The new technology, invisibility, that Qual had mentioned in the past was eventually applied to the red owl only yesterday. The group wandered nearby for a while and looked for a red owl. It wasn't easy to find because it wasn't snowing. In the end, Valeria sighed and used recording magic to find the red owl. The two people burst into laughter because this situation was funny, and Bale became irritated by spitting insults. Even though I found the red owl, it was so transparent that I had a hard time finding the boarding gate. The group managed to get on board after Bale hit his head a few times, and only then did the invisibility automatically cancel. Well, I guess it needs some improvement. Both me and Dr. Qual are working hard, so don't criticize us. I don't know if you know how busy I am. All those who sit in high places are like that. You understand, Valeria? After setting the coordinates, the Red Owl instantly transported the group to the main gate of Kinzelo's new headquarters. Oh, what is that? Those guys. It's the Bamel Coalition. Buvar and Anas Kaligo, two people who happened to be sitting in front of the main gate watching the ants and playing welcome the group. You are such an unlucky bastard that you just came in like this. Do you think we are still allies? Is this a surprise attack? It's a surprise attack, Sister Leader. Grandee, Jean Runkendal has invaded. The group walked towards the front door without even replying to them. The two people only screamed loudly, but when Jean approached they crouched down and closed their eyes tightly. The enemy tribesmen standing as gatekeepers aimed their weapons for a moment, but everyone's legs were shaking. Put it away. At Jin's one word, the enemy tribes lowered their eyes and put away their weapons. And someone go and call your leader. I will be in the VIP room. As Buvar and Anas said that, they only passively whispered swear words as they looked at Jean and his group heading towards the VIP room like they were at home. Kinzelo headquarters was immediately put on alert. I have no intention of doing so, but if Jean came to launch a surprise attack, the headquarters could be devastated in an instant, so it is natural. In an instant, battle beasts and demons came out and blew trumpets announcing the invasion. He even took out his weapon and aimed it, but like most of the previous Red Tiger gatekeepers, he didn't even dare to think of wielding it. Jean did not miss the fact that among them were demons that had not been seen in the Temple of Evil. Have they already recruited demons since the Battle of the Demon Gods? Or is it a troop that was kept hidden rather than sent out at that time? There were also a few demons that gave off quite a bold impression. A few years ago, Jean was a strong player who could not avoid struggles or could not win. Of course, it may be just cute to Jean at the moment, but it could be enough of a threat to allies with relatively low combat power. In addition, there is a high possibility that demons have special abilities such as super regeneration or dark magic. Of course, the people looking at me when I suddenly come here are not very kind. If you get the chance, it wouldn't be a bad idea to check the level for your colleagues. It would be nice if just a few guys would come forward and attack us. Just as they were thinking about that, a demon rolled its eyes and blocked Jin's group. The size of the White Wolf tribe and the huge axe were impressive. Jean almost said thank you out of gratitude. Jean Runkendal, what kind of bullshit is this? The demon shouted, ready to attack at any moment. What kind of shit did I do? I heard from the leader that the temporary alliance with you has come to an end. But you came to the headquarters without permission and looked for Director Dajagoja? Do you think this is common sense? There was no room to refute the statement since it was absolutely correct, but Jean shrugged his shoulders. Your leader and I can have a cup of tea anytime. Playing with words. Stop. Another demon stepped in front of the large demon. Wearing old-fashioned clothing and calm eyes, he gave off a much more dangerous aura than his larger counterpart. He is not worthy of your rank, so please step down. All right. As the large figure retreated, the demon made eye contact with Jean. My name is Shagal of the Bakma family. Rontelgus Kaligo Hallowis Bakma, the fourth duke of the demon world. Among them, Shagal was Bakma's first prince. Oh, Prince Shagal. Hurry and kill that guy. Yes, brother Shagal. Just throw away the muxable. Buvar and Anas shouted as they quietly followed the group. Bakma ignored them and continued talking. I've always been curious about you, and this is my first time meeting you. If it's okay, can I ask for a favor? They say that now that the head of the Runkendal family is absent, you are the real king of royalties. It was said that if we borrowed the power of the Ming dynasty's fighting god, it might be the true best sword. Shagal pulled out the sword from his belt without even listening to Jin's answer. Who said that? Everyone. I see. What is your position in the demon world? The first sword of the demon world. I don't think that's possible. Let's just say I want to be a swordsman within the top 10 swords. Anyway, the leader is having a meeting right now. I'd like you to hang out with me until then. It seems that there are many people in the demon world who have fallen short. Jean nodded, understanding. Shagal smiled as if telling him to quickly draw his sword. Your Majesty, I am ready. Then you can start. You're not going to ask me to teach you and then tell you to excel. Chagall's eyes widened. Jin's two swords were still at his waist. The beast men and demons gathered nearby were very nervous and waited for Chagall's response. I'm looking forward to more. Whoop dash. Suddenly Chagall disappeared from Jin's sight. It wasn't just that the speed was so fast that I missed it, but in an instant my body was dispersing into gray smoke. Dark magic? Or is it a type of power? Chagall, who had become a smoke, was already extending his sword behind Jin. Sigh. Jin turned around and swung his fist to block the blade coming in a straight line, and Chagall's posture changed, revealing a gap. Jin's fist, which struck away the sword, changed direction and struck Chagall in the face. The impact should have sounded like metal exploding, but the fist was hitting the air. It's close to power. It reminds me of Ozdak. Even though he is impervious to physical attacks, he couldn't help but be exposed to blows when he attacks. However, Jin did not miss the moment Chagall was formed on the left again, and first delivered a deep kick to Chagall's ribs. Town! Next, Jin grabbed Chagall by the back and threw him to the floor. Chagall immediately turned into smoke and widened the distance. His ribs were dented and his face was covered in dirt. Don't blindly trust in talent. Jin adjusts his clothes as if he has no intention of dealing with him any further. The sparring was over before even 3 seconds had passed. And I always do my best when competing against stronger opponents. Has this been enough teaching? Chagall narrowed his eyes. Of course, Chagall did not think he would defeat Jin. According to what I heard from Orgel and leader Kinjalo, it seemed like there would be any chance of defeating Jin if at least the dukes, including his father, came forward in person. But I had no idea that they would be subdued so quickly. He expected that there was no way he would be unable to at least fight a battle. As Jin said, the fatal cause was letting down one's guard due to the inertia of power. Brother Cha Chagall. You're not going to admit defeat already, are you? Chagall Gung. No, Prince Chagall was also in Ranka's class. Chagall looked at the two people with a disdainful gaze for a moment and then nodded toward Jin. I will do that. Because the sparring ended so quickly, Jin had to wait for Orgel's meeting to end. Chagall personally invited Jin and his party to the VIP room. Even though he lost face, he didn't look excited or angry. But Chagall. But why? If something goes, there must also come. Now that you've learned something from me, I'd like to ask you some questions. Isn't it enough to get over the rudeness of coming here without warning? It's not enough. According to what you said, you learned the sword from someone who is close to being the best swordsman. Chagall thought for a moment and nodded, concluding that Jin's words were reasonable. That makes sense. What are you curious about? I heard that, after the last battle to protect the Holy Kingdom, the demon world suffered damage that was almost annihilated. But are there still many strong people like you and Bianca Ranka left? The demon world is not one. It was my first time hearing this story. What does that mean? I'll just answer here. Can you tell me more about the sword? I decline, sir. Have some tea. It's a rare car. Due to Chagall's stubborn attitude, Jin did not ask any more questions. It's not one. It was a story that could be interpreted in many ways. It could mean that the demon world is not unified, or it could mean that it is divided into several dimensions. Even after the battle of defense of the Holy Kingdom, not much is known about the demon world. Yes, it is a demonic relic kept by our Holy Kingdom. Zito's eyes have been showing bad signs recently. Jito's eyes? The name Jito may be unfamiliar to you. It is said that he has never been active in royalties and that few people even in the demon world know his name. Even after I became king, I could not confirm any records about Jito's eyes. To answer your question. Galgal. Jito is a person who is a shame to our demons. But to me, he is no different from a teacher. I remembered the conversation I had with Rani Orgel before the Battle of the Beast. It sounds like you mean that the demon world ruled by Orgel, your leader, and the space ruled by Demon King Jito are separated. Is it just a territorial separation, or is it on a different level? Chagall was so surprised that he just scooped it up because he had to get his money's worth, but he spat out tea water. Kalik Kohak. Are you really that surprised? Orgel did not inform the other demons that Jean had mentioned the Demon King Jito. You really do have an extraordinary talent for surprising people. It looks like the meeting is overseeing as the tricksters come out. Go see the leader. I hope I can have a better fight with you next time. As Chagall left as if running away, the group walked towards Orgel. Are you here, the magician of Jean Runkendal Hister? Vale, I'm very glad to see you. Don't act friendly. Because I don't like you. I'm not in a very good mood today, Jean Runkendal. So there must be a good reason for coming to our headquarters without any message. Vale answered, but Orgel showed his discomfort towards Jean. What if there is no good reason? I will draw my sword. You will be chosen too. You sound scary. I came to propose different conditions for the steel deal that failed last time. If that's all, then one of us won't be able to sleep soundly today. So let's hear about the terms of the steel deal after the rest of the story is over. Orgel was really ready to draw his sword. It looked like his hand was already on the hilt of the sword. Even the scenery that had just been a conference room changed into a golden subspace. Orgel used his power to prepare the battlefield. There was a moment of confusion at the unexpected development, but Jean calmly looked at Orgel. I feel like I'm not in a bad mood, but really bad. What happened to upset Orgel, the most cautious of Kingelo, who is mostly crazy? It won't be because of my statement. I'm not afraid, but now is not the time to fight him. However, there was a possibility that a battle would actually occur depending on how valuable the rice cake prepared before Jean came was to Orgel. Lokia Genesto. What? I came here because I was curious about why the traitor from 1,000 years ago wanted the resurrection of the sun god just like you. Orgel's hand slowly reached the hilt of the sword and came down. The reason I told Orgel about Lokia's purpose was to see if he and Lokia were in a cooperative relationship. Looking at you quite surprised, could it be that you had no idea about Lokia's purpose? It doesn't seem like he's acting. In that case, I don't feel like I gave away the information too easily, but I couldn't say it was a real loss. If the two are not in a cooperative relationship, it would be like adding one more pursuer to Lokia without using the power of the Bamul Alliance. There was silence for a while. Jean was convinced as he watched Orgel pondering an answer with his mouth closed. He's really embarrassed by this story. Hey Orgel, let's not judge each other and have honest conversations. It looks like the information is quite shocking to you as well. I heard this story from Lord Paidler. To the Blue Brain King. Okay. Sir Paidler said that Lokia Genesto was the one who betrayed his family 1,000 years ago and colluded with a witch to corrupt Timar. Sir Paidler was also attacked by Lokia, but before he died he revealed that his goal was to revive the sun god. The golden energy of subspace disappeared, revealing the conference room again. It is said that Lokia was the one who drove all the 10 great knights to their deaths at that time. Keeping Baal alive is necessary to achieve his goal. Then it's strange. I only remember now after hearing you say it. The manipulation of history applied to Lokia has not completely disappeared. Orgel was tracing memories that were gradually becoming clearer after hearing the story about Lokia from Jean. Remember what? Only once 1,000 years ago, there was a chance for the sun god to be resurrected. When he could finally return to this world. Right before that. The person who caused me to be erased from history. At that moment Orgel's eyes showed a murderous intent so great that even Jean was shocked. Lokia Genesto. It was that wicked bug. I can't believe I'm only remembering this now. Whoa. Gray wings spread out from Orgel's back as if a dragon was angry. The entire building was shaking from the enormous energy radiating from his body. Oh, this can't be acting. It really seems like Orgel was defeated by Lokia 1,000 years ago, just as Sir Paidler said. I had a strong intuition that maybe I could blow my nose without using my hands. Mr. Why are you suddenly angry? Jean covered Baal's mouth as he tried to swear. There was no need to talk to Orgel, who could find and kill Lokia on his own. Orgel will be better at digging up information about Lokia than our alliance. For now, there are limits to finding Lokia even with Valeria's recording magic. Once they start getting information, you can create a situation where they can share it one by one. Alternatively, it would have been a good idea to keep a close eye on Kingelo tracking down Lokia. It would be much more convenient than chasing Lokia directly. Calm down, Orger, I think this is the first time I've seen you so emotional. Anyway, to sum it up, you missed a critical opportunity to resurrect the sun god 1,000 years ago because of Lokia, right? In fact, that was the reason why Orgel was so sensitive today. As he was conducting the meeting just now, he remembered the opportunity from 1,000 years ago to resurrect the sun god. However, I couldn't remember how I missed that opportunity, but now I know thanks to Jean. The fact that it was because of Lokia. If it weren't for those disgusting bugs, the world could have become perfect again 1,000 years ago. I may not agree with that, but Runkendal also deserves blood from Lokia Genesto. Do you have to pay for blood? You speak as if Lokia is still alive. She's alive because I met her not long ago. Can you show that record to Valeria Orgel? The record of Lokia Genesto's words had already been blurred in Runch's subspace. Instead, Valeria opened the record's window and informed Orgel that she had looked at the records. The blurred sentence here was that one day when my father returns from the Black Sea, something will happen that I cannot handle. This is what Lokia said when she proposed a contract to her sister. It is said that the reason Lokia is still alive today is because she received eternal life from a witch. Orgel calmed down little by little and regained his composure. As the anger subsided, Jin's behavior felt strange. Why is Jean Runkendal giving out so much information without receiving anything in return? Jean seemed to see right through his insides. You seem embarrassed that I gave you such advanced information so easily, but I'm only telling you because I have something to gain. I'm concerned that the records about Lokia have become blurred. I think the blurred part could mean that you are colluding with Lokia and trying to trick me. Okay? They say I'm in cahoots with an unknown dark figure like Lokia. They say the temporary alliance is over, but that's a shame. Who cut Orgel's chest? People are beings that can change at any time. Even if I colluded with Lokia, as you said, what's the problem? Find out, and if you think your paranoia is true, you can hit me then. Just now you acted as if you were ready to have a fight with me. Yes, I understand what you mean. You want to use me to track down Lokia. I think we're finally able to communicate a bit better now, Orgel. Even if it's not a temporary alliance like last time, how about a temporary cooperation? It's not cooperation, it's exploitation. But let me play. Orgel actually had no choice. Even if he refused, there was a high possibility that Jean would figure out the movements of Kinzelo's tracking team through Valeria and Unknown anyway. Moreover, if Lokia found Runtia again, Kinzelo had no way to confirm. If Jean wasn't on the same team as Lokia, there would be no reason to refuse. From Orgel's point of view, he could always receive help from Valeria as long as he found clues about Lokia. Okay, I think this story has been settled. Now shall we move on to the steel trade? Last time the king of Tychon only said nonsense and left. In this situation, I want to purchase steel for just more money. I added more information about Lokia there. Orgel sneered at Jin's shameless words. I can't give you a price for that, because it's not our fault. And the money is double what I paid last time. Do you have any intention of buying steel? Yes. Honestly, isn't this a business where you can make money just by taking money? I know it's overflowing with rot. Can you afford that money? I heard that Huffister reconstruction is in full swing. Any amount as long as you don't ask for a lump sum payment. Unfortunately, it still doesn't work. To be honest, I thought I would hear something great if you came in person, but I'm disappointed. Unless you share your technological prowess, don't even dream of trading steel. From then on, Jean put his all into acting and creating facial expressions. A look on his face that says he's really frustrated and angry but will never show it. Go past that. I think it would be more of a loss if your technical skills improved than if we gained more power by building a large number of ships. Fortunately, Orgel smiled softly, perhaps because it worked well. You are confident in your power. Do you believe in Tushin and Murican? In any case, negotiations have collapsed. I'm going back. If you change your mind, please contact Tychon at any time. But then we will have to deal with worse terms than this. That won't happen, so stop coming to me with the steel problem. If anything special arises regarding Lokia, please contact me. As Jean and his group left the headquarters, Chagall found Orgel. Captain. Chagall. Jean Runkendal knew Zito's name. You must have been taken aback by him suddenly bringing up Zito's name. There is no other reason for not informing you that he knows Jito. I don't want you to have unnecessary curiosity. I thought so. However, Jean Runkendal asked me about the demon world. Did you give me an answer? Yes, I'm asking for compensation for responding to the sparring. I also felt that there was a disturbance. It hit me right away. It's embarrassing, but it was a great learning experience. The answer was simply that there is not one demon world. Then he asked if the leader and Demon King Jito had different areas of rule, so he left. I see. Maybe I made a mistake? No, Jean Runkendal will soon find out that much information anyway. Even if I knew, I wouldn't be able to respond, so there's nothing to worry about. All right. I am going to write a letter now, so go to the third demon realm and deliver it to your father. Something happened that required the help of phantom demons. The Red Owl's next destination was Wantaramo Forest. When Jean and his party appeared at the entrance to the forest, the three people were greeted by Naru and Ruru Miru, a Mayoan tribe. Valeria had sent them a letter in advance. They need to find their forgotten friend Leet Damaro Yul, the old butler of Runkendal. Have you been waiting long? No, I only waited a week. It seems like you've been waiting a long time. I'm sorry. Don't mind. I had a great time talking with Sheila. The third tomb of Timar, where Leet was located, was originally located in the hideout of the Mayoan people, but it was destroyed by the Ghost Army immediately after Jean visited it. Therefore Valeria decided that, in order to enter the tomb where Reet was again, there had to be something related to Reet like Runch's subspace. Silas, the sword of Baal Paidler, and Sheila, Leet's younger sister. Even if all the elements were used, if the door to the destroyed Mayoan people's hideout could not be reopened, finding Leet would become difficult. Let's go and check it out. I think it will work. I took a little of Sheila's energy and went near the destroyed hideout, and there was a strange reaction. Jean walked into the forest, remembering the terrible loneliness that Leet must have been experiencing. Welcome. As we entered the forest, Sheila greeted the group. It's been a while, Sheila. In the past, after Jean and Valeria visited Wantaramo Forest, Sheila regained the powers of the cursed Fairy King. Seeing her for the first time in a long time, she possessed stronger magical power than before, and the order in the forest centered around her appeared to be perfectly organized. Even though it wasn't that long by our standards, I'm also very happy to see you and Valeria. In particular, Valeria seems to have improved a lot. Can you see my heart? Valeria asked with a playful expression. She had felt a kind of bond with Sheila since their last meeting. There is a difference between those who were cursed and turned into ghosts and those who inherited the will of a true fairy, but in the end both were sowing fairies. Valeria felt Sheila was like a loving grandmother, and Sheila also thought of Valeria like a granddaughter. Then anyone who knows you will think so. The girl's face, which was full of only mission and revenge, has become so clear. I think it's thanks to Jean and his colleagues. When Valeria looked embarrassed, Sheila smiled and looked at Jean. I should say thank you to you, not only for Valeria getting better, but also for saving this world. All living beings on Earth are indebted to you. That's too much praise. That's right, that's too much praise. In fact, it's not him but a warrior from the Ming dynasty who saved him. Oh, why are you hitting me? These little things. It was not Jean who hit Baal but the Mayans. Jean burst into laughter as he looked at Baal, who was huffing and getting angry at the Mayoan people. You must be Lord Baal Runkendal. Oh, you know me? Sheila was recalling some of her memories from before she was cursed by Hilurum 1,000 years ago. As Jean solves one huge case after another, Zippel's manipulation of history is losing its power. I saw you 1,000 years ago. You don't seem to remember. At that time I used the name Shil Damaro. Shil Damaro? I think I might remember it. Ah, was she the deacon's maid? This is my younger brother. The concept of maids did not exist for fairies at that time. I see. Didn't you have another brother? The child was sent directly to me, because we forgot our duty and betrayed ourselves, putting our family in danger. Oh, I asked about something pointless. No. However, Lord Baal certainly has that duty as well. A duty that must be performed. Perhaps it has something to do with the guardianship of Runkendal or the legacy of Sodaret. Sir, he was a teenage knight. I don't know much about that. At that time I was only fighting for Sarah, not my family. No, you will remember it someday. Obviously my sister said that everyone was fighting with one mind at that time. Normally he would have complained and asked what it mattered, but for some reason Bale didn't want to say anything bad to Sheila. Mr. Nehru said this on the way to Sheila. When I took Sheila's energy to the destroyed hideout, there was a strange reaction. Yes, Jean. They say a blue light appeared due to my energy. My sister's power manifested beyond Sodaret's subspace. Record magic archetype fairy powers. What the Myoan people saw was the exact trace. Jean nodded, feeling his heart beating rapidly. I wish I could tell you a lot about Runkendal from 1,000 years ago, but unfortunately I don't have much memory of that time. What Leet said at the third tomb of Timar. Even if we find Leet right away, all the secrets from 1,000 years ago will not be revealed. Even if the manipulation of history has been weakened, it is unlikely that all of Luiti's memories will have returned. But just the little clues she remembers will be helpful. Above all, it would be of great help in developing Valeria's recording magic, which meant that the history of that time could be restored. You're probably feeling it too. I have to go quickly. The aisles have already been prepared. Nehru said, creating a purple energy on the floor. The mysterious purple color unique to the Myoan tribe was drawing a magic circle. Then a door rose up from the magic circle. Isn't the door a bit small? Because the distance was so far, meeting our standards was limited. It's okay. Please come back. Somehow I think I'll be able to hear good news soon. Sheila's voice was excited as she felt that she could finally offer a belated apology to the sister she lost 1,000 years ago. The Myoan received energy from Sheila and placed it in a basket. The energy seemed to be overflowing, but it did not leak at all. Yes, Sheila. The group crouched down and entered the door. Beyond the gate was the hideout of the Myoan people, which had been destroyed by the ghosts a few years ago. In the middle of the ruin-like hideout, a blue light similar to recording magic was seen fluttering like fireflies. For some reason Valeria was moved to tears as soon as she saw that sight. It was because of the thought that Leet, like himself, was struggling not to be completely forgotten in order to complete his mission, even if he remained alone. There were similarities between her fate and that of Luiti, who were lonely people with a mission to record. Veil. At Jin's words, the veil opened its power and spread golden power. As soon as his power increased, the blue light caused a more intense reaction. Your prediction was correct, Valeria. As soon as I touch something related to Leet, I get an immediate response. Then when Silas was placed at the center of the energy, the blue light was amplified once more. Oh! Can I finally meet Reet? The Myoan people shouted with joy. But the change stopped there. It was a surprising enough phenomenon so far, but it felt a bit weak compared to Shakan's reaction to Timar's tomb. It was the same even when Jean unleashed his spiritual energy. Even though all the tombs in Timar have always responded to spiritual energy in situations like this. What should I do? Shall we bring more of Sheila's energy? That's the method we already tried before Jean came. While the party was lost in thought for a moment, Valeria quietly infused magic into the silver pine staff. I'll look at the records. A blue record window appeared amidst Leet's energy. This? As always in situations like this, the recording magic showed only extremely limited information this time. I don't think it's going well? Doesn't that mean you can't take out that Leet guy? Do you need something more? Don't criticize me and just stay still. Because Valeria is concentrating. Even after 10 minutes had passed, there was no change in the sentence that appeared in the record window. Valeria was already sweaty and hot. If this continues, he will be the first to leave. That's right, Jean. Valeria is going to get hurt. Wouldn't it be better to find some more clues and come back? Just as the Myoan people also added their concerns about Valeria. Valeria opened her eyes and looked back at Jean. Right now, Lord Leet's energy and my magic power are resonating. Okay. It didn't look like that at all to Jin's eyes, but he didn't complain. Because there was no way Valeria was talking nonsense. But we need more catalysts. Neru, please go and continue to move Sheila's energy here. Huh. Okay. See, Sheila, you said you needed more energy. Lord Vale, please go and help, and Jean, stay here and look after me. If there are any signs that I am about to cause a runaway of magical energy, you will need to help me. Jean sat across from Valeria and turned to the throne. Coverage the magical energy that escapes my control with your spiritual energy. Whenever I bring Sheila's energy, I place it in the center. Now I can't talk until it's over. Valeria was doing something very dangerous, but Jean decided to trust her. Okay, don't worry, just focus. From then on, Vale and the Mayoan people went back and forth through the passage, bringing Sheila's energy with them, and Jean protected Valeria. Like adding more firewood, Sheila's energy was added to Valeria's magic and Leet's power every 5 minutes. It looked like the fire was getting bigger little by little. At times Valeria narrowed her eyebrows and moaned in pain, and Jean calmly covered her magic with spiritual energy. From some point on, Valeria wasn't asking Jean for anything in return when this happened. Even when your life could be in danger like now, Valeria did not just take the risk to complete her recording magic. The relationship between the two was slowly becoming closer, like in a past life. The resonance between Valeria and Leet continued throughout the night. In the meantime, Valeria never opened her eyes and only focused on unleashing her magical powers. Jean was also slowly getting tired. This was because he was also carrying out a task that required as much concentration as Valeria. And finally, around midnight, wah-wah! Valeria's magic power and Leet's power, which had been shining small like a bonfire the whole time, suddenly amplified and created a huge pillar of light. Oh! And, oh, Valeria! At the same time, Valeria collapsed into Jin's arms. Fortunately, I did not faint, but my entire body temporarily lost strength due to exhaustion. Jean patted her back, which was hot as a fireball. I'm fine, don't worry. I guess I can just rest for a moment. Did you succeed? If you look closely at the 4 pillars, you will find an entrance. Leet said that if you apply Jin's spiritual energy, it will open. In the process of resonating with Leet, Valeria had several internal conversations with her. There really is an entrance. Jean adjusted Valeria's posture so that she could rest comfortably, and Valeria did not bother to get out of his embrace. Seeing this, the Bale and Mayoan people exchanged glances and whispered, "That's enough, let's go." Jean stood up with Valeria and stood at the entrance to the pillar. When I put a handful of spiritual energy in my palm and held it, the door opened immediately. Inside, I saw Leet, just like Valeria, sitting down and catching her breath, exhausted. "Really? You didn't forget and came back to look for me?" Leet was smiling. "Lee. It's really Lu Edge, right? You exist like this, but we have forgotten you all this time." Water formed in the large eyes of the Mayoan people. Tell this to your friend inside. On behalf of the Mayoan people, Neru expressed his gratitude for the 1,000 years of lonely hard work. "No matter how hard I try, I can't remember who he was." What Neru said when Jean first visited the 3rd tomb. The Mayoan people's hearts were pounding with excitement at the fact that they had finally met their old friend whom they had only recently remembered. Has 1,000 years of solitude finally ended? Leet remained motionless for a while as he looked at Jean and his group that appeared in front of him. Although I communicated with Valeria the entire time, it didn't feel real when I saw the door open. "Yes, I came to keep my promise, head deacon," Jean said, passing his hand inside the door. Leet fixed his gaze on the hand and then looked around and behind him. A landscape recreated from 1,000 years ago. It was once a place where the man I loved and my colleagues always stayed together, but after they all passed away, it was filled with only deep sadness and loneliness. The scenery was shaking and losing its shape. It was a phenomenon that occurred when subspace was forcibly opened. Now it was time to leave this place and walk toward the light they left behind from those days. Leet walked slowly and held Jin's hand. In fact, my eyes heated up at the warmth of another person I was touching for the first time in a long time. "As soon as we meet again," he shows his sloppy side. "It doesn't feel that way at all, so don't worry." "Leet, it's me, I'm Neru. Do you recognize us? You were very lonely inside, right?" "Neru Rurumiru. You are all safe too. Would you be happy to see me too, Chief Butler? Leet looked back at the Vale and narrowed his eyebrows. Bale cleared his throat as if stinging at the not-so-pleasant gaze. Lord Vale. Although he showed a disappointing side 1,000 years ago, it seems that he has now followed Jean Lord and returned to his true role as a teenage knight. It must have been Lord Jean who released him from the seal. The ones who sealed the Vale were the teenage knights of that time. After Sarah's death, Leet remembered how Vale ran rampant and destroyed the world every day. So, that's it, right? I guess. It's not that I don't understand Kyung's sadness, but I wonder what it was like for those of us who had to seal away Kyung's companion who was going crazy. Have you thought about it? When he first awoke from the seal in the Sea of Swords, Bale spoke as if he and Reet had a very comfortable relationship, but in reality that was not the case. He was immediately startled by Leet's voice and muttered, "Sorry about that. Remember, something like that will never happen again. Lord Jean just called me head butler, probably because I still have to carry out that role just as I did then. Therefore, as the head of the family, I will watch over the Lord. Do you understand?" Looking at his behavior so far, he could have been scolded for nagging him as soon as he arrived, but Bale looked at him carefully and nodded heavily. In the past, Leet had disciplined teenage knights, including Bale. When Bale, who suddenly became depressed, lowered his head, Leet smiled and patted his shoulder. "Of course that doesn't mean I'm not happy to see you. Thank you for coming back now." "Ha! Hee, I've come to my senses now, really." There was no difference between a skilled teacher and a weak-minded troublemaker, Jean thought to himself and laughed to himself. Leet's gaze landed on Valeria. Valeria had been holding the silver pine staff tightly without realizing it since Leet appeared. "Miss Valeria Hester, you are the recording wizard that Lord Jean spoke about, using powers similar to our fairies." Leet and Valeria had a conversation in resonance just now, but it was mostly about ways to open subspace. Leet still didn't know that the name Hester came from the will of a fairy. Nevertheless, as soon as Leet saw Valeria in person, he felt an inexplicable sense of kinship. No, it was like that even from the time it resonated. There was no need for the party to separately explain the situation. As Leet gently waved his hand in the air, a bright blue recording window appeared, and a video was played inside it. In the video, a woman resembling Leet and Valeria and Sheila were depicted. All the fairies who fought against Ziffel to the bitter end have been forgotten. Human, what does that mean all of a sudden? But the final record of their souls became seeds that seeped into the nature of this world. The seed passed through the world for 400 years and finally germinated, and the human being was born. This is Minka Hester. You must know this king of the cursed fairy descendants. It was that day that Minka Hester, the founder of the Hester family, came to visit Sheila. Leet and Valeria could not take their eyes off Minka in the video for a while. For Leet, it was the moment when she confirmed the existence of a descendant she did not know about, and for Valeria, it was the moment when she saw the progenitor of her family. Just as Runkendal left behind the spark of Lord Jean, our people left behind the light of Miss Valeria. Now I understand what Jean said to me back then. Our people are your roots. Leet gently hugged Valeria. I heard that you are the last survivor of Hester. Perhaps your life has been full of trials and sorrow. I hope my return can be of some comfort to you. Valeria held back tears from flowing. It was because I didn't want to appear weak to Leet. Instead of comforting Valeria, who was suppressing her burning emotions, Leet nodded, as if he was proud of her. I didn't feel it the last time we met, but surprisingly you seem like a boss. Well, seeing as how Bale couldn't even make a noise, it seems like he was a very strict head deacon. Jean was feeling very reassured by Leet. Good posture, Ms. Valeria. It's better to be patient when you can. Of course comfort is necessary, but now is a time when fighting spirit and a sense of duty are more important. We're not perfect yet. I don't have any memories from 1,000 years ago, and my powers have weakened significantly. Your magic may not be perfect either. Yes, Leet. From now on, let us work together to regain what we have lost. From now on, I also want to use the name Leet Hester instead of Leet Dameroyul, because that is the name my people left behind. Could you please give me permission? Valeria nodded repeatedly. Jean smiled as if she were a girl treating a respectable adult. It was a sight I had never seen before in my previous life. Jin Kyung. Yes. What is Kyung's current position in the family? He is the 12th rider and owner of Soga. Where are you currently? You are away. I will explain in detail later. Then, until the matriarch returns, I can work with the mindset that no one will be there for me except you. You will have a lot of work to do. All right. I will formally greet you again, Lord Soga. From now on I am the Chief Deacon Leet Hester, who will resolve major and minor issues in Runkendal under the orders of Lord Soga. Jean couldn't help but be taken aback for a moment when Leet knelt down on one knee and bowed deeply. It was always like this when distant ancestors like the previous head of the family were like this. But soon Leet scolded him in a calm and quiet voice. Even if it is Timar who kneels and not me, and even if some god kneels, Lord Soga must be proud and not be embarrassed. Jean pondered how to respond, then nodded with a solemn expression. Okay, now stand up and I will go and introduce you to the members of the family and the colleagues of the Bamul Alliance. Yes, Lord Soga. I'm very looking forward to it. Before taking Leet to Runkendal and Taiken, we had to first stop by Wantaramo Forest. The Myoan people, who already had quite a crush on Sheila, felt uneasy when they saw Leet's strong and stubborn personality, which they had forgotten. Perhaps to Leet, Sheila is just a foolish traitor. When they reached Wantaramo Forest again through the Myoan tribe's portal, Sheila folded her wings and welcomed the group. Sister. Sheila looked up at Leet with anxious eyes, and Leet looked down at her with eyes that were hard to read. I had missed my sister so much, but when I met her it was difficult to figure out how to start the conversation. Shil Damaro. Leet called Sheila by her old name. The other fairy descendants also looked at Sheila's attitude and bowed down as if they were afraid of Leet. The fairy descendants whose memories of Leet returned felt ashamed. Sister, Are you really going to make excuses when we meet for the first time in 1,000 years? Sheila bit her lower lip and shook her head. No, I just want to apologize. To my compatriots who were forgotten and disappeared by my sister. Even if it is just a meaningless apology. Yes, I understand. Late regrets and apologies have no value. 1,000 years ago you were disappointed that I would put my clan in danger, but look at the results. Those of my compatriots who fought to the end, including me, left descendants called Histers, and those of you who neglected your duty were cursed by the witch. Sheila could not answer and lowered her head. But I think you have paid enough for this. Sister. So now don't make the same mistake as before. When you have to fight, when those who want to save the world need your strength, step forward and risk your life. Sheila's eyes widened. If I say yes, will you forgive me? What you need is not me but your own forgiveness. So you don't need to ask me for forgiveness. Because I have never hated you. At those words Sheila hit her head on the floor and burst into tears, and Leet helped her up and said these words. Yul, from now on I will give you a name that only the Fairy King can have. Let's watch to see what role you play in the decisive moments ahead. If you turn away again, your name will be taken away again. That will never happen. Okay? Then you two are now a member of the Bamul Alliance. If you need anything, please contact your family or the Bamul Alliance. Let's go now. Don't forget that, and stay well, my little brother. After saying those words, Leet walked straight toward the outside of the forest. Sheila, no. Yul couldn't take his eyes off his sister's face, as she walked away until she disappeared. August 20th, 1803. About a month has passed since Leet returned with royalties. As soon as she began her duties as head of the house, she quickly took control of the family and proved her abilities. Number 10. It would be better to strengthen support for polluted areas in neutral areas. Zippel is becoming more and more passive in its support of neutral contamination zones, so we need to attack and recruit them. Most of the areas that Zippel passively supports are places with nothing to gain. Rather, if we make it a part of the Huffister Alliance, after relief, reconstruction costs will be higher. I know. There are no useful resources and most of the areas have actually collapsed from their foundations. But what matters now is Runkendal's status. Even from a humanitarian perspective, if we sleep a little less, we can save a lot of lives. All right. In addition, this is a time when talent is more important than anything else, and you never know where talent will suddenly come from. One day someone we need may suddenly appear in the area our family rescued. Engineers came out from the area rescued by the 7 horsemen last time, right? There were many things like that in my time. Leet is not only the head of the butler but also the ancestor who left Runkendal as it is today. Even the previous heads of the family, who were the eldest members of the family before she came, are distant descendants to her. Moreover, after observing Leet's work ability, Jean even gave her full authority over internal affairs, so she was currently Runkendal's de facto second-in-command. Cadet Instructor Sir Tasha. Please speak, Deacon. The new cadets we received this time were all great. After selecting the leader, give each person a famous sword. I still have a few swords selected. Also among the new cadets, pay special attention to those who have been in a group on the previous stage, to avoid unnecessary division into factions. It is good to stimulate fighting spirit through competition, but it is not a method suitable for the current situation. Always set goals to overcome by fighting together. I will do so. Lord Ballas, how is the Black Sword Society these days? Kaha, there is no day when my sword bleeds from catching and killing those who are stealing reconstruction funds. Although they are all small children. Very good. When it comes to corruption that occurs in Huffister, the Black Sword Association must continue to show that it will personally take action and severely punish even the smallest cases. However, there should not be a single person who has been wronged. Don't worry, those who think it's really ambiguous will be taken to the Princess of Tychon to confirm the facts. However, it seems that power increase is necessary. So it would be a good idea for the instructor to send anyone who seems to be showing signs of growth here in advance. The Protectors Association has recently been working hard to compile a family law code. From what I've read, Chapter 5 overall feels overly strict. How about relaxing each etiquette standard a bit? Deacon, I think it is right not to compromise on that part. No matter how chaotic the situation is, the legal code must be a legal code. That makes sense. Instead, we will add provisions that may be relaxed depending on exceptional circumstances. That's a great alternative. Proceed that way. And Sir Tellet, the President of the People's Council. Yes, Deacon. It is great that you are going around in person encouraging existing residents and immigrants and preventing various conflicts in advance. As the president of the Haman Association, it is a natural thing to do. However, for now, it would be better to focus more on directly examining the talented people among the former residents. I understand, Deacon. #1 Butler Petro. Yes, Deacon. Family financial reports need to be more organized. Make sure each department works to collaborate and share more closely. You are the #1 butler and Sagaju's dedicated butler, so you should do that much. And one thing about Luther Federal black market sales was missing. I can't tolerate a mistake like this twice. I'm sorry. I will correct it immediately. I think this is roughly all sorted out. Let's all go back to our seats and get to work. The next meeting will be held at 2 a.m. The members of Runkendal were truly spending their days without any hardships. But no one was dissatisfied. Leet had a strange magical power that constantly energized his subordinates while pecking them like crazy. 2 hours after everyone went out to carry out Leet's orders, Jean came to the conference room. Leet stood up and greeted him with courtesy. Deacon. Are you here, Sagaju? I heard you haven't been able to sleep for several days. Are you okay? For a fairy, this is insignificant. Thanks to Sagaju's good plan, I am working very easily. It smells like dirt and iron. Has Lord Soga been to the Empire? Yes, I came to check out the drying yard construction site. The underground foundation work has already been completed and the interior work has now begun. There must be a shortage of technicians. Extremely difficult construction engineers were a very valuable workforce even in my time. I guess so. We are still recruiting engineers somehow, but the bigger problem is the absence of a construction manager and the lack of engineers to build the fleet after the construction site is completed. Originally, just drilling underground in the Jiamwangi area required tremendous technical skills. However, that part was resolved in a short period of time through the power of high-ranking warriors' various magic and the power of Manbing. They literally dug out the ground with force and prevented the collapse with full ice and magical powers. However, full-scale internal construction could not proceed that way. To realize Qual's blueprint, the world's best construction engineers were needed. Although Qual is currently in temporary charge of overall responsibility, his main job is magical engineering. No matter how many centuries ahead of his time, he was a genius. The realm of architectural technology was a different matter. Even the Empire's best engineers were having difficulty realizing Qual's blueprints. Dr. Qual said that to do the job perfectly you need to have at least the skills of Zippel's top technician or Buvar. Or a new construction contractor appears. We are emphasizing that we must continue to recruit talented people, but we do not know how much time it will take. Besides, if you need that level of genius, you really have no choice but to rely on heaven. If you can't find engineers, it's not impossible to complete the construction, right? Yes, I said it was possible. It just takes a few times more time and money. It's a few times, so I don't have much money already. You said you were the new contractor for Gumen Architecture, right? Has something occurred to you? Finally, I need to check when and in what region a new construction contractor was hired. Luigi called in civil servants and collected historical books on contractors kept within the family. Let's see. Here it is. The last contract was made in March 1666 by a man named Clap Modal of the Barkel Borough of the Rudero Magical Commonwealth. He died in 1701. The previous contractor was Kien Salasa of Barclay Borough in 1603, and before that Harriet Bayer in 1541, also of Barclay Borough. They're all in Barkel Borough? The old name of Barkel Borough was Barkel Kingdom. In my time it was known as a kingdom favored by the god of architecture. Now I remember. We also sent knights to get a new contractor for the construction of the Bakel Kingdom. If the god of architecture is still only contracting with people from Barclay Borough, he is likely already part of Zippel. Probably so. Still, if there is a contractor in Barkel Borough, wouldn't it be okay to give it a try? Invading and capturing them like we did 1,000 years ago will not work. I think it would be a good idea to use a compass to check whether a contractor exists within Barkel, and if so to collect information through the 7 colors and then send an unknown person to bring him back. This is a dangerous method that could easily lead to a big fight. However, as Leet said, it was necessary to first confirm the existence of the contractor using a compass. Jean immediately rode the Red Owl to Tychen and returned with a compass. All the compass does is place a red dot in the area where the contractor is located. Even the precise location was not disclosed and no other information was provided. Looking through the compass, there was a red dot in Barkel Borough, but it was not one. It looks like there are more than 5 contractors in Barkel alone. As Barkel is a borough close to Draka, it was bound to be an area frequented by Zippel's contract wizards. For the time being, I will take a look at the red dots in Barkel Borough as I work. Look at the numbers that fluctuate. Just as Leet had finished speaking, a new person came into the conference room. Deacon and Sagaju. Lord Tellet. What's going on, Sir Tellet? President Tellet cleared his throat and looked a little embarrassed. I came here because one of the refugees was a boy who claimed to be a new construction contractor. I tried to tell you after confirming as much as possible in advance, but I think I will need help from Princess Tychen or the head deacon. I asked him to show his power, but he was just talking nonsense. Jean and Leet looked at each other for a few seconds and blinked. What did you say? He said that since he was a prospective contractor, he needed to go through some trials to properly sign a contract. Anyway, he's in the hallway. Normally Tellet would have dismissed the boy's words as nonsense, but he knew how desperate the situation was for a new construction contractor, so he came to the conference room. I need to meet you first, so please come in. As Tellet gave an order outside, the waiting knights let the boy into the conference room. His scruffy appearance was that of a typical refugee, and his eyes had the unique anger of a deviant boy. The entire time he stretched out in front of Tellet without being discouraged. Oh really, I am the new construction contractor. You shouldn't have treated me so harshly. Ugh, Jean Kyung. You're really Lord Jin Runkendal, right? And as soon as the boy saw Jean, his angry face changed and his eyes sparkled. It was a look in his eyes that said he had finally accepted his idol. Jean thought for a moment about where he had seen that expression before. It was when I first met Enya. When Jean winked, the knights who were viciously holding on to the boy loosened their hands and retreated. And, let me meet Jean Kyung for real. Nice to meet you, Jean Kyung. My name is Luce Fabrizio. I am from the village of Call in the southern borough of Barkel, and I am 16 years old. And he is an excellent member of Jean Runkindle's official and unofficial fan club. Luce paused for a moment and took out the official member badges of each fan club run by Enya and Sandra. Even though his entire body was tangled, his badge had been cleaned so cleanly that it was shiny and shiny. Enya and Sandra said that not everyone can get that. Luce was grinning while holding out 2 badges until Jean nodded once. Seeing that Telet touched his forehead as if he was in pain. Not only had Luce been flirting with him all this time, he never thought he would dare to be so careless in front of Runkindle's small head. Among the fan club, she is called the Tenacious Luce Jinseong Jinbaraji. Okay, let's shake hands first. I'm thankful that you like me so much. What an honor. Shaking hands with Sir Jean? It's crazy. Lord Telet, could you please give me a handkerchief? Hee, I'm almost bursting out laughing. How on earth did this guy lose his cowardice? When Telet shook his head and handed over the handkerchief, Luce rubbed her hands together, instantly staining the handkerchief, and held Jin's hand. The fact that he embarrassed Telet once again by returning the soiled handkerchief as it was a bonus. Jean felt awkward because Luce didn't let go of her hand for a while, but Luce just burst into laughter out of excitement. You are the new construction contractor? Yes, Jean. I found out about that not long ago. Suddenly I heard a voice in my head. Would you rather make a contract with me than with Barbo, the god of architecture? Barbobo was the right name for being known as the god of architecture. It was also a name that could not be known unless one had studied God to some extent. So you came to me because you wanted to use that ability as Barbobo's contractor? Of course. It has been my dream to join the Bamul Union for a long time. I wanted to do something big with Jean Jiang someday. That dream could come true now. Heaven recognized my wish. I have no talent in magic or swordsmanship, so I thought it would be difficult to succeed in those fields and meet Lord Jean. Let's calm down a little and talk calmly, Luce. All right. First of all, anyone can join the Bamul Alliance even if they don't have any special abilities. In a broad sense, residents living in Union lands are also members of the Union. In that sense, you are already a member of the Union from the moment you took refuge here. Then it's better. Now you can become not just a member of the Union, but a member of the Union who directly works with Lord Jean. Of course, even if Luce was really Barbobo's prospective contractor, he had no knowledge of the shipbuilding yard in the Jiamwangji. However, he came to Jean with the thought that if he completed the contract and gained power, he would be of great help to the Bamul Alliance. I think it would be good for me if that could happen. But what does it mean to be a prospective contractor? I heard you need a trial to fully carry out your contract with Barbobo. Oh, that's... At Jin's question, Luce showed a hesitant look for the first time. Jean calmly watched him without reproach. No, now that I think about it, I should first ask you, who is from the southern part of Barkel Borough, how you ended up here. If you were from Barkel, you would have been quite wealthy in the Lutheran Federation. As it was a city close to the federal capital, most of the people living in Barkel belonged to the wealthy class, even if they were commoners. The reason Luce didn't get discouraged in front of Telet in the first place was because of his outspoken personality, but it was probably also because he grew up in a situation where he didn't have to be humbled. Above all, when Jean asked Luce why he came here, he had an idea. My family was ruined. Is that what happened when the 4 horsemen of our family attacked the Bakel Autonomous District before the evil spirit died? While we were requesting support from Taiken, there was another attack. Is it possible that there was another large-scale troop movement in the meantime? No. Deepu's Runkindle attacked the Barkel Borough accompanied by 2 Black Knights. Because preparations were made, civilian casualties were not very large. But the ghost captain was seriously injured. Mr. Cadden fought back with a body that had not fully recovered and suffered internal injuries. A conversation with Ronald when Dyfus attacked the Lutero Federation. When ye Deepus attacked, I lost my house and all my property. Luce's family inevitably suffered damage at that time. As I watched Luce say that her family was ruined because of her older brother, I felt like my heart was being squeezed. As Jin's expression darkened, Luce repeatedly waved her hand as if there was no such thing. But it's none of your business, Lord Jean. Sir Jean did not give the order, but rather Sir Jean came to the Lutheran Federation for support at that time. Also, although the house and property were lost, no one in the family died. It's fortunate that everyone was outside at the time. That's a good thing. I will restore your lost property to the best of my ability. Wouldn't that be Lord Jin's job too? Originally there should have been insurance money, but those damn jeepers didn't pay it. At that time there were about 15 affected households, including me, and not all of them received anything. Is it difficult to pay during war? I almost died when I went to argue with the fire dragon Cadden. Tellet clicked his tongue again at that point. If Cadden had met her, Luce would no longer be from this world. Anyway, at that time my whole family was completely crazy about Jeep. A strange rumor started going around, so the whole family decided to immigrate to Hewister. Strange rumors. There are rumors that Jeep is conducting biogolem experiments on residents again. There is no evidence yet to see if Jean Kyung couldn't come to his senses after being exposed and humiliated so much during his time as a reserve jockey, but they are still like that. Jean had always kept in mind that Zippel was conducting biogolem experiments again. There is no way the demonic swordsman biogolems seen in the Holy Land were just created. Anyway, losing my house and money is a bit painful. My family is generally positive like me, so I am determined to live well in Huffister from now on. As long as I succeed as a core member of the Alliance and make a living, that's enough. Jean smiled and patted Luce on the shoulder. Still, I have to say I'm sorry for not being able to stop the Fourth Horseman in advance. It's okay. Is there anyone in this world who doesn't owe Lord Jean? If it wasn't for Jean Kyung, we would all have been killed by the evil spirit. Let's call it Samsam. First of all, I'm going to do some verification on you. I need to officially confirm that you are really Barbobo's contractor. What should I do? I can't show you my powers because I'm a prospective contractor. You just need to stay still and it will be over in a moment. Deacon. Yes, Sagaju. Check Luce's records. Leet placed his hand on Luce's forehead and unleashed his power. Did you say it was not long ago that you heard Luce Barbovo's voice? When exactly is that? It was early morning 15 days ago. Was it around 4 o'clock? I'll take a moment to look at your records from 15 months ago, so don't be too surprised. As soon as Leet finished speaking, a video started playing on the recording window. It was 15 days ago when Luce heard Barbobo's voice. Unfortunately, Luce happened to be reading a collection of springtime novels that she happened to find while evacuating. Luce scratched the back of her head in embarrassment at that scene, and Jean burst into laughter as he remembered Murakan. Oh, how on earth did I pick this up? Maybe it's a rare collection of springtime paintings. According to rumors, Murakan, the guardian dragon of Jinjing, has a hobby of collecting collections of spring paintings. Should I take some of these later? Hey, who are you just now? Who was talking to me? What? Barbobo? Since Barbobo's voice was only transmitted to Luce's inner self, it did not appear in the video. However, the possibility that it was manipulation or acting was extremely slim. There is no reason to pretend to hear Barbobo's voice while reading a collection of children's books in a corner of the shelter alone at 4 a.m. without family members knowing. I'm finally getting an offer from God. Okay, what should I do? What? How do I do that right now? Wait a minute, Barbobo. God of architecture. Give me some advice. The video Leet confirmed ended there. Ha ha ha. I had no idea that my private life would be exposed like this. It's a bit embarrassing. By the way, do you think Murakan will like this collection of springtime paintings? Well, when it comes to collections of springtime novels, I tend to read them first. Looks like the verification is over. Now will you tell me what trials Barbobo said were necessary? It's the same with Luce's hesitant reaction earlier and the questioning of how to do something like that in the video. The ordeal seemed like an impossible task for Luce to accomplish. Well, that ordeal. Speak comfortably without being noticed. If I tell you, will you help me? If there's anything I can do to help. Okay, then I will trust Sir Jean and tell him. This was the ordeal that Barbobo requested. Find a construction site where even this Barbobo would have a desire for a challenge and become the person in charge. A construction site that even the gods of architecture would covet. As soon as he heard those words, Jean came to mind. Leet and Tellet were thinking the same thing. If this is true, there is no need to check the compass and risk touching Barkel Burrow. Jean smiled and answered Luce like this. Luce, come with me somewhere. The place we headed with Luce was the construction site of a secret drying yard in Jiamwangi. Before entering, I did not forget to look into Luce's past once again and conduct verification through Uria. This was because the possibility that Luce was a spy for Jeep could not be ruled out. Since it was a task to take to a top-secret area, it was naturally a necessary verification, and Luce accepted it without much hesitation. As a result, it was true that Luce came to join the Union with a pure heart without any relationship with Jeep. From the beginning, he could not contain his excitement at the fact that he had come to the Union's top-secret area. Wow! After all, the Bamul Alliance was hiding something like this. In the meantime, when Luce saw the light left by Ron, she calmed down and went in front of it and prayed in silence for a while. Why did you come back after you just left? What did you leave behind? What is that little guy again? Qual, who was in charge of the construction site, approached Jean and said, Aren't you a kid? I think the kid is right. My name is Luce Fabrizio, the eldest son of the Fabrizio family, and the president of the Jean Runkendal official and unofficial fan club. I am a prospective contractor for architect Barbobo Dr. Qual. When Jin spoke instead, Qual's eyes widened. What? Is that really true? Your name is Qual, right? Anyway, it's nice to meet you. I'm also a member of the Union from today, so take care of yourself from now on. Qual looked Luce up and down as if he found it hard to believe. For a while, Jean explained to him the ordeal that Barbobo had put Luce through. To be in charge of a construction site that even the god of architecture would covet. If it is a site designed by Li Qual, then of course you have to do that. Hey kid. Soon Qual raised his nose and showed confidence. It's Luce. Okay boy. Go right inside and tell Barbobo to take a look. I'm sure you'll be satisfied. As we went down to the basement, Luce let out a series of exclamations again. When you open the door, which can barely accommodate one person, an endless and vast underground space is revealed. In fact, it was much brighter than the ground where Gleek's spirit remained. Magic lanterns were shining brightly from the ceiling to the walls, and members of the Alliance were busy moving about underneath them. Even to Luce, who knew nothing about architecture, it was clear that this construction site was enormous. Luce suppressed her pounding heart and waited to hear Barbobo's voice. Jean and Qual were also waiting for that voice. If Barbobo didn't react even after seeing this place, I had to think again. Dang! Fortunately, Barbobo spoke up immediately. Luce was shocked and hit her butt, and Jean looked at Barbobo in the form of a soul incarnated above his head. Surprise! Barbobo, let's make a contract with me now. I don't like it. Oh, what else don't I like? The reason Barbobo subjected you to such an ordeal was because he had a purpose. I wanted to watch you, an immature and incompetent bastard, realize your talent through a preliminary contract with me, grow step by step, as you make bloody and bone-chilling efforts to complete the trials I have given you. To? What? When you jump into the construction industry and eventually become the person in charge of a site that even this Barbobo would be impressed by, I was going to use my power to let your talents bloom to the fullest. But you're pulling a trick like this? Whether it's a trick or something, isn't it okay as long as the conditions are met? I think it came out because Barbobo was also impressed. I'm late to say hello, Mr. Barbobo. This is Jean Runkendal, owner of Runkendelga Soga. Humph. Yes, Jean Runkendal. This is a name that has been heard often among the gods recently. Was it you who encouraged Luce to pull a trick? That's right. I didn't think it was a trick. There's no way a guy of your size wouldn't have known my intentions. Please take away your anger. Are you sure you don't like this scene? That's not true, but it feels like Luce's opportunity to grow as a person has disappeared. The royalties these days are very dizzying, Mr. Barbobo. If Luce had started working somewhere other than Union without meeting me, especially Jeep, It is highly likely that they made him a slave through mental manipulation or absorbed Barbobo into a demon stone. Barbobo surprisingly seemed to agree with Jin's words. That's not wrong. This idiot could have been caught by Jeep for talking about his abilities. If that happens, I would be trapped in the demon stone. So even though it may be a little disappointing, please give us strength. Although Luz did not go through the ordeal alone, he will learn a lot as he serves as a key manager in this field as a member of the Union. Jean continued to speak in a very friendly manner, but in fact Barbobo was overwhelmed by the strange majesty that he radiated. It was also because of the story circulating among middle and lower class gods. Jean noticed that Barbobo was intimidated. If there is anything rude about my story, please tell me. It's not like that. However, I thought for a moment whether you were really that kind of person. What do you mean by that? I wonder if he is a person who can protect the gods who are afraid of being absorbed into the demon stone. The point is that Jin's name has been frequently mentioned among lower middle class gods recently. Among the gods, there were many who were afraid of being absorbed into the demon stone. Now that the demon god stone has become more powerful, middle and lower class gods have no choice but to be absorbed the moment they are captured by Zipple. When Barbobo explained this to Jean, Jean nodded with a firm expression. For me, defeating Jeep is a mission that must be completed, so I have no choice but to naturally help the gods in the process. However, there are quite a few gods who are currently in our alliance, but this is the first time I have heard of something like this. There are areas where newbies like Pecan Minche cannot participate yet. On the other hand, high-ranking gods like Ulta rarely have anything to do with us, so that's possible. Anyway, I am very willing to help. There is no reason to ask for anything in return. Just by preventing the gods from being absorbed into the demon stone, you are preventing Jeep's power from increasing. It seems like you want something in return from me? Of course, I would be disappointed if you said, I wouldn't help you in this situation, but I wouldn't hold a grudge against Barbobo. Barbobo, can't you just help me? Sign a contract with me. Barbobo appeared lost in thought for a moment as Jean and Luz spoke. Soon he nodded as if he had made a decision. Okay, let me help you. Instead, let's protect the gods close to me together. They are especially in danger because their location has been almost exposed to Jeep. There are three. The god of painters Katam, the god of picture frames Ox, the god of pencils Telpen. Among them, the god of painters is like you. Barbobo was about to say something more but shook his head. I think it would be better to hear it directly from Katam. Anyway, find those three and protect them. I will not tell this information to other gods. For no reason, this may accelerate Jeep's search for God. Jean was curious about the contents of Tam but decided to meet him in person to hear it and did not ask any more questions. If you tell us their location, we will take them to you immediately. I'll write it down later. Please take care of me in the future. Luz is such a bright guy. Go ahead and kneel reverently. I will proceed with the contract. Oh! A round circle was drawn on the floor where Luz sat and light erupted. I, Barbobo, the god of architecture, contract with Luz Fabrizo and give him my blessing. From now on, Luz Fabrizo will be able to borrow my power as an official contractor rather than as a reserve. Light seeped into Luz's body. Luz shivered for a moment and then opened his eyes. The construction site now looked completely different from before. As if the fog was clearing and something hidden was revealed, the problems scattered throughout the field began to be understood at a glance. It's crazy, this is the power of God. Ugh, I'm tired after finishing the contract. I'll come back after a short rest so you can ask Luz to do some work. There are more than one or two things that need to be improved. King Jean. No matriarch? My lord? Union leader? I wanted to call it something different. Usually I call this guy my lord. Then I'll call you brother Jean, brother. From what I can see, there are many areas in the field that I can help with. First of all, the pillar joints over there will crack in about 2 months and the ground over there can be dug up further. What? You can tell something like that just by looking at it? The location of the material space is not appropriate. The ground is weak over there, so if it gets heavier it will collapse. These were all areas that even Qual was somewhat aware of. So Qual was in even greater shock. What about the gate? Can you see over there? They're working on creating an opening for the ship to exit. Do you think it's okay? Well, I guess I'll have to wait and see to find out. What is the structure of the opening and closing gate? If you look at this blueprint. Luz and Qual looked at the blueprint and talked for a while. Qual nodded his head as if impressed every time, and Luz sounded very excited about the new sensation. What's even more surprising is that Luz's powers are still at a beginner level. Just as Jean has been practicing spiritual energy, Luz can also further improve her powers by studying architecture. Hey Jean, it looks like construction will go very quickly. We need to recruit workers and increase the supply of materials. I will stay here from today, Brother Jean. I'll write down the address, so please take care of my family. Instead of sending it here because it will get messy, I think you should just find a house in a reasonably safe area. I have a lot of work to do, so please introduce your family later. Jean nodded with a bewildered heart. Luz was already rolling up her sleeves and getting ready to start work. I get it. If you need anything, you can always ask Tychon through Qual. Please check on your brother. Doctor, please work with Luz and contact me as soon as the approximate completion period is announced. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. When he left Jiamwangi and returned to Tychon, another good news was waiting for Jean. Jean. As if she had been waiting, Valeria came straight to Jean. Your expression is bright. Is something good happening? Valeria. Valeria took out a piece of paper from her pocket. There were dozens of names written on the paper that Jean had never seen before. What names are these? Valeria smiled and answered. These are the names of magic engineers who saw my name and requested a transfer. Did I tell you? I'm sure if my existence becomes known, people like Kidad Hall, who are crazy about Hister's magic, will come to visit. The blessings kept rolling in. Knights, warriors, and wizards fundamentally pursue different directions. The ultimate point of martial arts can only be said to be stronger power, but most wizards are often more passionate about exploring the mysteries of the world than about power. That's why so many wizards are requesting transfers just by looking at the name of the legendary magic family called Hister. For wizards who know what recording magic is, the existence of Hister itself was the key to the mysterious destination. Even though the Heister family was active for a short period of time compared to other prestigious families, and most of their history has been lost, that fact has not changed. Suddenly Jean thought of the promotional billboards for Valeria that Goldtop had placed all over the world. I burst out laughing when I remembered the picture of her with a refreshing smile and even a wink which was not like Valeria. Why are you smiling like that? I remembered your advertisement picture. Looking at the list at first glance, it seems like there are well over 100 people. This is also a selection of magic scholars, engineers, and professors or doctors or higher. Over 2,000 applications came in. 2,000? It far exceeded my expectations. And yet it keeps coming in like a tide. If Valeria had been a member of Zippel and the world had not been as chaotic as it is now, there would have been several times as many requests. It's thanks to this that not only I but also Leet's existence is known. Because Leet also uses Hester's name now. After bringing Leet home, Jean did not bother to hide her presence. Rather, it was announced that Runkendal was actually protecting the new survivor of the Hister family. Not only was there no reason to worry about Jeep's opinions, but strictly speaking it wasn't wrong. Instead of recognizing that Valeria lied about being the last survivor, the public responded that it was better that a new recording wizard appeared. Of course, Zippel and Kingelo either know or guess Leet's identity. However, Zippel cannot provoke Jean carelessly, and Kingelo actually welcomed it. In particular, Orgel was hoping that if Leet's memories returned, it would be easier to find clues about Lokia. Among those written on this paper, is there anyone worth looking into? There is one person. This is a person named Sael Lutver. This is my first time hearing this name. I am a low-level noble from the kingdom of Palin. Palin is a junior engineer at 3rd University and is 33 years old. Palin 3 University was not a university that was well known among magical engineering students. If Maldan is on the list of top engineers, does he have some special ability? I'm going to check that from now on. I have seen the story of the Rutberg family in the Hister family heritage site that I have opened. The Rutberg that Valeria saw at the battlefield had once formed a brief alliance with Hister. However, only the record that the alliance was broken remains, and the details have not been confirmed. In the meantime, a person from Rutberg submitted an application, so Valeria couldn't help but become curious. As Valeria explained these details, Jean nodded. It was a family that was temporarily allied with the Hister family at the time, so if what you said is true, the reason that the Rutberg family currently has no influence may have something to do with Zippel. I think so too. My ancestors did not leave any record of being particularly hostile toward Rutver. So before I came here, I often looked for the person of Rutberga, and this is how I found it. Now that we're here, let's go meet each other. The two rode a red owl and headed to the outskirts of the city, where Palin University was located. I simply disguised myself using the gold-top cosmetics prepared on board the ship, and immediately went to the third university, where I was able to immediately meet Sale. Who are you two? Are you looking for me? Jean Runkendal. This is Valeria Hester. Yes. As I took off the wig and roughly removed my makeup, Sale opened his mouth in shock, as if he was about to faint. Ha! It's real. Even though no one asked him to, Sale locked the door to the lounge first and crouched in a very low posture. This is Sale Rutver, who submitted an application for alliance support this time. The two of you personally came to visit me like this. Are you looking to find out about my family's past? You speak first. How did the Rutberg and Hister form an alliance in the past, and why did it break up? Sale looked at Jean and Valeria. Speak comfortably. No matter what you say, I won't harm you. Valeria also nodded. Even if the Rutberg family had betrayed the Hister family in the past, it would not have had much of an impact on the situation. If that were the case, Zippel would not have neglected Rutberg like this until now. I understand, Sir Jean. But Lord Jean just said that our family and the Hister family were allies in the past. What I know is a little different. How is it different? There is something my late grandfather and parents always used to say. He said that we, the Rutberg family, survived thanks to the Hister family, so we must repay the favor someday. We survived thanks to our family? Valeria spoke and Sale nodded. Yes, our Rutberg family is an ordinary family. However, it is said that one of our ancestors, who was active in the 1400s, had a special talent for magical engineering. His name is Gen Rutwer. Gen Rutwer was also an unknown figure to the public. However, Valeria remembered Zen's name that she had seen in the legend. He was the one who formed an alliance with the Hister family. At that time, Zen seemed to have received a request from the Hister family. It was a request to produce a certain product, and I heard that they had been working on the development together with Hester for a while. I don't know exactly what it was. That's because it's a story passed down in the family like a legend. I heard that it is an item that allows ultra-long distance conversations. As soon as they heard those words, Jean and Valeria felt a flash in their minds. Ultra-long distance communication device. It was an item closely related to the wavelength tracking summon that Valeria and Qual were currently developing. This was the case with all devices containing the word wavelength tracking. Currently, Qual and Valeria are developing all items related to Laperosa's royal family in order to get royalties from them. One of the results was a red sphere that realized limited unity of investment and belief, and another thing under development was an ultra-long distance communication device. If direct summoning is difficult, the first step is to create a way to communicate with Laperosa in real time. Actually, I thought it was just an exaggerated legend. But when I look at the way the world is going these days, it makes me think that it could have been real. Since the advent of chaos in the world, technological progress has been rapid. More than anything, seeing the recording magic in person gives me more confidence. It's an ultra-long distance communication device. The Hister family requested it from your ancestors. Yes. Is there any more story told about him? Whether it's completed or not, or the technical literature that has been passed down. My grandfather and parents believed that it might have been completed, but that it was hidden somewhere. Then there is nothing that can be used as evidence? This time when Valeria asked, Sale smiled as if he was embarrassed. There is such a thing. This is a piece of paper said to have been left behind by Zen, and it is a family heirloom. Sale said as he took off the pendant around his neck. Inside the pendant was a piece of paper that had been folded several times, but it was so old and worn that it almost looked like trash. When Sale opened the paper, sentences made up of codes were revealed. And Jean had seen the same password in the past. Shujil Hester's magic book obtained from the Teesing underground auction house. Sale's paper consisted of a code system that perfectly matched what was written in the magic book. Valeria's eyes widened when she saw the ciphertext. "Can I take a look?" "You can do whatever you want." The ciphertext interpreted by Valeria contained the following contents. On May 12, 1457, we finally succeeded in developing a communication device with the help of the great magical engineer Jen Rutver. However, since we could not handle the enemies targeting this device and blueprints, we decided to hide the device in Maliet Hester's lore. This is because there is no other way to prevent the extinction of Rutberga. It's painful that Zen's accomplishments will be forgotten for a long time because he never got to use the device he completed. Jen Rutwer thankfully agreed with my opinion, even though they have to say goodbye to their families because of us. Thank you again for your great judgment and sacrifice. All of Zen Rutver's knowledge and achievements, both the soul and my physical soul. It will remain in Maliet's lore. If the enemy can't find it, it won't last forever. So whoever reads this letter, please find the place of Maliet's lore. The location of Maliet's legendary site was left on the back of the letter. It is a very infamous legend even among record wizards, so make sure you have sufficient skills before attempting it. According to the paper, the communication device that Jen Rutberg created together with the Hester family was already completed in the 1400s. Moreover, Zen of the Rutberg family has never betrayed the Hester family, but rather the Hester family owes him a great debt. Valeria calmed her pounding heart and looked at the paper again and again. And I shared this with Jean and Sale. The family legend was indeed true. Rather contrary to the legend, if the contents of this paper turn out to be true, it is I, Hester's legitimate son, who must express gratitude and repay the favor. Oh, you don't have to think like that. This is what my ancestors did, not me. I just want to be part of the Bamul coalition and work. Even if there wasn't a piece of paper left by my ancestors, I would have submitted an application to the Federation as a magic engineer. Jean and Valeria nodded and smiled. Not only the sudden appearance of a new construction contractor and the arrival of top-notch magic engineering students, but also the legacy of the Hester family and Zen. Good luck was continuing. I will go to Maliet's place of legend and give you a reasonable reward as soon as the verification is complete. Let's go to Tychon first. At Valeria's words, Sale jumped up and showed a happy expression.